Hello, all. Welcome back to Men Do Talk. This is Kayan, the host, and we are working on season 3. Can you believe it? Today's show, we'll be talking about acting in Atlanta. Is it a better market than LA or New York? Stay tuned, and we'll find out.
Yeah. Hey, you know I got a testimony, right? I was just thinking about where I was at in life before I gave it up to God and where I'm at now. It's been good to me. Let's go. Used to be smoked out, drinking whatever I could swallow, knowing that I'm sinning and still blessing the bottle, living with no direction, just chasing after.
Today we will be talking to an actor/voiceover artist who gave up his career as a university counselor to pursue the passion in acting. Since then, he's been in multiple commercials, done voiceover work, and appeared in some of the top TV shows and movies. Welcome, Mr. Kirk Jones.
Thank you.
How you doing today, Kirk?
Man, I am doing well. Glad to be here. First podcast in a while.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Okay.
for having me.
So, when did your acting and voiceover career start?
Wow. Well, I initially started working at the radio station. I lost my job. The job was cut. And I decided to volunteer at Radio 1 in Columbus, Ohio. And
Okay.
I was trying to get on the air, trying to be a host. And it was taking a long time, man. And so I was sitting in one of the production studios and I was listening to Matt James do traffic and news. And I asked the producer, I said, hey, how do you become a traffic and news reporter? And he said, hey, call this number. Long story short, I met with the operations director and he was like, do you have any on-air experience? I said, no. He was like, you can't do this. Well, I was relentless. I was like, look, I'm a professional. I can speak well. I have a master's degree. I'm an educator. I was like, I can do this. He said, okay, well, give me a demo. So my friends at the station put it together. About a month later, he said, yeah, he emailed me. He said, we want to bring you in and train you. So he trained me for 2 months, and then I was on Radio 1 with over 100,000 listeners during morning time.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, and from there, I started meeting people in the voiceover world. So I started doing voiceovers, got an agent, but then I was given an opportunity to do a ESPN ABC commercial, sports commercial.
Awesome.
So that was my first, entry into television, being on screen. And I got such a great response from people when they said, man, you look, you shouldn't just limit yourself to voiceovers, but, you got a great face, do film and television. So that's what led me into film and television.
Okay. So how long did you do the radio?
I did the radio for about 2 years, and it's funny, I got discouraged because I was volunteering. I put my heart and soul into working at the radio station. I was sitting in the studios, kind of watching the radio personalities, going to the remotes with them, helping them, assisting them. And I used to do this bridal show, Joy 106.3, which was, but it's gone now. It was a gospel station.
Okay.
And I was basically working at the information desk at the bridal show, basically signing people in. And the director of the station, program manager, comes over to me. She says, Paul Strong wants to see you. He's the big guy over everything. And I'm like, oh, boy. So he says to me, you've been working with us for a while, and you've been very committed, and we want to offer you an opportunity to be one of our hosts on Joy. And I was like, what? For real? And I says, really? He says, well, yeah, but we do have a favor. We have one thing to ask of you. I'm like, okay. He says, we want you to host today's bridal show. I said, well,
Put you in the hot seat.
yeah. And I said, well, when does it start? He said, in 15 minutes. He says, we want to see what you're made of. And I was nervous, but I was like, okay. So they gave me the script, in terms of the format, and they said, now you're going to have to be like the entertainer when the models are, changing and they're delayed. You have to keep keep the laughter going, keep the energy up in the show. So, we had vendors. So I would tell the folks, during the delays in the show, I would say, hey, go over there and see these vendors, let's support our people, that kind of thing. And I started to play comedian, and I looked into the audience and I saw all these African-American women. I said, now what would these African-American women be interested in terms of comedy? So I started talking about hair and relationships.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, I got them going. And so at the very end of the show, the station director, he comes up to me, he shakes my hand. He's like, man, you did a great job. And then I started training to go on to Joy. And then they just stopped calling me. It's like, well, and I didn't get paid. And I'm like, so I talked with the program manager. I said, what's going on? And she was like, well, you're too pushy. But I've been told that in the radio industry, when you're persistent, and you show that you have passion, that's something that really makes them want to bring you on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she said I was too pushy. And so I told her, I said, look, I said, it wasn't my intent to be pushy. I really, really want to show you that I want to do this. And her response was, well, we can't really use you now or in the near future, but you can continue to work as a volunteer. So from that point on,
no money.
That was a wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, I can get that.
But I learned a lot from that experience. And I have had some experience doing radio. And here I am kind of doing radio right now. So everything is connected and preparing you for what's going to happen next.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
So what started your acting career?
The acting career, again, the ESPN ABC commercial.
Okay.
That pretty much was the impetus that led me, because again, I just wanted to do voice acting.
Okay.
That's it, because with voice acting, you don't have to memorize anything. The script is already, there. You just read it. You can come into the booth and you relax. It's just a different environment. And so, but when people were telling me, that I looked really, really good on TV and that they thought that this would be something that I should pursue, it kind of made me think, well, let me see, maybe I can do it all. Like in the words of Warren G, I want it all, new socks and drawers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good combination right there. So we're here in the Atlanta location or area. And right now, Atlanta is really hot with movies right now.
Yeah.
What's one of the challenges that you have had with the Atlanta market?
With the film industry, it's so up and down, and you don't know when you're going to get booked. You audition, and you don't know what's going on after you submit the audition.
Okay.
And so and it's such a on the fly kind of industry, whereas you have to be ready. They may tell you, we want you to be available for 2 weeks, and they'll give you like a 2-week window.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, but you're working and you got bills to pay and you just can't take off, when they want you, And so that's really been a challenge, finding work that will allow me the flexibility to get off when I need to get off.
Okay.
And sometimes you just got to you may end up losing a job because it's like, okay, well, I got this booking for this day player in this television show, but I know if I take off at the last minute, that's going to cause a problem. But you have to really look at, well, what are you doing? And what is your purpose? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And is this job, this 9 to 5, is it worth, killing an opportunity or passing an opportunity by?
Yeah.
So you just have to ask yourself what's more important. And sometimes you may end up being late on your bills.
Yeah, I can see that because it is sporadic. With the acting and the movies and things like that, it's sporadic because they bring a lot of people from L.A. or New York. Why do you think they do that instead of just making sure that they get the Atlanta people for the Atlanta movies?
Well, you know what? I think that we're creatures of habit and we all have paradigms. And I think the perception is your best talent comes out of L.A. and New York because these are the places that are traditionally known for the cream of the crop in terms of talent. Mm-hmm. And so some paradigms are hard to break away from, because there's a lot of talented people here in Atlanta. And my understanding is a lot of the supporting roles are given to the Atlanta talent, but the principal roles, oftentimes, I mean, even people who live here who get principal roles typically have to audition in LA before they get a role here. This is what I've been told. You know, I don't know how true that is, but I would imagine that may be the case.
Okay. Now, let's go over your last project. What did you do in your last project?
Most recent project, and I have to be careful not talking too much because this project has not aired yet. So.
Okay, let's not put all that information out there.
But I will give you a little bit though. It is a series that NBA great Kevin Durant is executive producing. Again, it's a brand new series that hasn't aired yet, so I have to be real hush-hush about it. But I was very, very pleased with how they treated me once they booked me for this particular role.
Okay.
You know, I was very, very pleased. And actually, the audition was an improv audition, and I do really well with improv, you know, as opposed to all script, you know, and so they just said, well, this is the scenario here, and we want you to improv it.
Okay.
And I did it, and 3 days later, I got a call from my agent or email.
Okay. And with voiceover acting, how would one get into that? For
me, it was the radio thing, volunteering at the radio. That was my introduction to the voiceover. I met this guy, Ron Allen, who is my voice mentor and coach. He's based out of Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And Ron started to bring me in to do radio spots for him. I was kind of like his urban voice, you know. And I said, Ron, please don't limit me to the urban world, you know. I can speak like a white man as well, okay? I can do that quite well. Yeah, I'm very versatile. So he started basically having me do Applebee spots, you know. And I said, look, you don't have to pay me, because he was paying me to do the spots. I said, look, I just want you to train me. So we kind of bartered, you know, and he trained me. And I really credit him for helping me become a better voice actor. Because a lot of people think this is easy work. You can just read a script. But when I first started taking lessons with him, I noticed that there were things that I was saying in my recording that I didn't know I was doing. Okay. You know, like a lot of times we talk very casual, especially, you know, those of us, you know, who didn't go to Harvard. you know, we're very, very relaxed with how we articulate, how we pronounce words, what have you. For example, you know, I may say, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Well, cool. Difference between cool and cool. So when you're reading a spot for IBM, you know, you can't, unless they ask for a relaxed urban vibe, you know, you just can't say that's cool. You have to say cool.
You got to put the tongue in it.
Right, cool. You know, so that's just a funny example right there. But I was doing things unconsciously. And so he was like, Kurt, you said this, and he would play it back. And I'm like, man, I didn't believe I mispronounced that word. I always thought that kind of thing. Right. You know, so you learn more about just certain things, certain habits that you have that you may not have been aware of. So the training really helped me out a lot. But yeah. So getting back to your question, getting into the voice acting role, I would suggest that people take classes. I know here in Atlanta, before I moved here, one of my friends who's a voice actor, singer, she said that there are a lot of acting classes here, or acting schools that will allow you to audit classes where you can take a voiceover class for free because they want your business. So they will allow you to kind of come in and sample the food, if you will. Okay. Yeah, and so that's a good way to figure out if, in fact, this is something that you're really good at or that you're really interested in doing. Then also, there's a book that I always recommend. This gentleman is named Rodney Salisbury. Rodney is an actor and a voiceover artist, and he has been in numerous television shows. Actually had a hit record back in the, I think, 90s. Look him up, Rodney Salisbury. He has a book called You Can Bank on Your Voice. And I actually met Rodney. It's amazing how you end up gravitating towards individuals and resources and opportunities that's relevant to your passion. It's just like spiritual. It's just so I ended up meeting him at a theater festival,
Okay.
and I actually met Rodney, or first connected with him after I read his book. I emailed him and I said, "Man, this is one of the best comprehensive books I've ever read about the world of voice acting." I mean, Rodney has, he has a glossary of terms that's relevant to, things that you would hear in the voiceover world. He has a list of agencies for agents, I mean, just everything from A to Z, how to get started, how to set up your demo. It's just a great book. So I always tell people, if you're interested in voice acting, that's a great book, a great resource. It's called Rodney Salisbury, You Can Bank on Your Voice.
That's great. That's great. At least there's somebody out there that's, trying to put back into people that actually want to do those things.
Yeah. But his books does cost, though. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Everything costs, people. Everything costs.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got to tell you a funny story. When I first emailed Rodney, we were having an email exchange. He was just selling his business. I mean, I couldn't ask him anything. He was like, "Well, I have a web series, a webinar," and I was like, "Rodney," I said, "Dude." I said, "Can I ask you one question without you putting a dollar sign behind it?" He said, "I got you, man. I got you."
Well, sometimes you got to put that dollar sign out there, because
right,
some
yeah.
people think that everything that you're going to do is going to be for free,
Right.
or it's going to be for a serious discount.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody got to eat.
Right.
So,
But
yeah.
I'm a sampler, though. Give me a couple samples before.
Well, that's understandable. Give you a couple of samples. Go
You
to
know what I'm
my website, and you'll get all kind of samples right there.
I hear you, right?
But yeah, acting in Atlanta. Is there anybody in Atlanta that you would want to act for, or be in some type of movie or play or anything like that with?
Well, of course, Tyler Perry is pretty big, and actually, I did some work for him about 2-3 years ago. I was a police officer. It was like a featured extra role. I didn't have a speaking part, but it was like I was one of 4 officers in this, and I got the face camera time, and I was able to draw out my gun and that kind of thing. So, and he directed the scene, so I got a chance to work with him. And he was very, very gracious, thanked us for doing a great job, and was funny too, but he got the job done.
Right.
But I like to work with Tyler Perry, but I also have to say this too, I love diversity, and I know a lot of African Americans in the music industry, entertainment, when we cross over, a lot of times there's a lot of negative feedback, from those in the Black community. But my thing is this, though. I want my work to touch the world. I just don't want to be limited, in the African American community.
Right.
Because I really believe acting and music, it brings the human spirit together. It's universal. I was watching this Michael Jackson video, and he was performing in Japan, and you know how they look into the audience. They have the camera, panning the audience, and I saw these Japanese folks singing, and I'm sure a lot of them couldn't even speak English, but they knew the words, and they're like, Peter, and I'm like, that's powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And acting is like that. I mean, the whole dramatic arts, it brings people together. Even sports, I noticed that. I see people black and white. When we get together, and there's a sporting event, it's just like this, hey, man, So the entertainment is powerful and can be used as a platform to bring people together. So
what do you think is some of the issues with, going back to acting, what do you think is some of the issues with Atlanta, and why Atlanta is not chosen for a lot of different things?
Wow, you really give me some really good questions, because when you said that, I automatically thought about some of the conversations I've had with other actors and their experiences. I'll share this one experience. About three years ago, I was invited for a table read for this project that was a book that was being turned into a screenplay.
Okay.
And I remember the person, I think she was the director or coordinating us, all the actors. We got together, and then she eventually told us that they were going to make a movie.
Okay.
But she was trying to get the directors and the producers to hire Atlanta actors as opposed to going to LA or New York. And they were like, Atlanta actors aren't as serious. They don't show up sometimes. They show up late. So there's this perception that we're not professional and that we're not as hungry, not as dedicated, not as well trained.
Okay.
So these are some of the perceptions that are going around as it relates to Atlanta actors.
Yeah, that's a big issue for Atlanta because that's not the first time that I've heard that a lot
heard it
of
too.
the
Yeah.
actors are late. Most times people say in the movie industry, being 15 minutes early is you being late.
Yeah.
So normally they want you to be there at least an hour before, because most of the people have to go through makeup. They got to go
Right.
through set setup. They got to go through equipment setup. So with going through all that, you do want to be at least an hour early.
And and LA is known for some of the top, LA and New York in particular. Those cities are known for like seriously minded actors and musicians. I mean, Broadway. When you think about theater, New York. You know what I'm saying? I mean, these people live, sleep, eat, breathe. Their craft. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think again, some of the LA folks, producers, directors, they don't really see Atlanta actors as being as committed. That's the perception.
Yeah, that's an issue. That's an issue for Atlanta. That's the biggest issue for Atlanta. Because as I was saying, anybody from any of those other markets, as you said, are more hungry, or it seems like they're more hungry than the Atlanta area. I do know a couple people that are in the industry, and they also said too that even lives here. That there's a lot of people that is not hungry enough, is not motivated enough to put the initiative together to get what they need to get or get where they need to get in time. A lot of people blame it on traffic.
Oh yeah.
You live here.
Yeah.
You lived here for years. How can you blame it on traffic?
And LA is I don't know if it's just worse as ours, but it's about tit for tat.
No, I think they worse than us, and then New York is worse than them. So, I mean, they get into places where they need to be at. Why we can't get
Well,
there?
that was the point. Yeah, that's the point I was getting ready to make. LA is known for its hideous traffic, but production still does what it does, and time is money.
Yeah.
I can think of times where I've gotten auditions where on the specs, which is the sheet of directions, in terms of self-tape, this is what we want. I always see, please do not look into the camera. And I'm thinking, wow, I would think actors would know that, but obviously that's not the case. So for whoever puts that sheet together, for them to say, you need to not look in the camera, that says to me that somebody's doing that.
Yeah, somebody's, a lot of them.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking, I would think LA actors probably would know better,
Yeah.
So I don't know whether that's just for, for us or do they actually tell LA actors, please don't look into the camera. You don't look into the camera when you're doing a dramatic scene. Now if you're doing a commercial, and you're a spokesperson, yeah, typically you have to look into the camera.
Okay. So, why did you choose the Atlanta area for your acting career?
I think it chose me.
Okay.
I'll tell you what I mean by that. I did not want to move to Atlanta. I did not, because of the hustle and the bustle, and I honestly, I really like diversity. I as a kid, I had friends from Egypt, from Lebanon, and so I'm always drawn to that. So when I see people from Africa, from Russia, from Brazil, it's like, wow, I feel like I'm in my element. I didn't sense Atlanta was going to give me that. You know what I'm saying? And so I was living in Charlotte because I actually moved when I lost my job in Columbus, Ohio. I sold my house. I moved to Charlotte. That's where I wanted to be, and I love Charlotte. Charlotte's an awesome place. And I was doing some acting there, had an agent and what have you. And then I was getting auditions for Tyler Perry. So I had to drive to Atlanta. I'm like, 4 hours, like, and I hate driving. Hate it, unless it's in the country and it's leisure, but the urban, the horns, I don't And so that's what brought me here. And it's funny, my roommate at the time, he, veteran, had some post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I came here one weekend for a party and came home, and he was like, yo, hey, man, this white guy. He was like, I'm moving next week. I was like, what? I was like, why didn't you tell me? He was just like, I didn't know how to tell you that. So I was like, wow. So 2 weeks. He gave me 2 weeks.
Okay.
So I was like, am I going to stay here? And I was like, you might as well move to Atlanta because a lot's popping off there.
Now the Atlanta area is booming for movies. Is there any certain part or certain character you would want to play?
The role that I really, really want to play is something, I would say something that is comparable to Denzel Washington in Training Days.
Okay.
I want to play a real hardcore urban, with the gold teeth.
The fronts.
All that. And I know that sounds stereotypical, but the reason why I say this is because I'm so not like that.
Okay.
So to play a role that's a total antithesis of who I am as a person, I think can be very challenging. And I grew up, in the hood, and I had a brother who was into the street life, but he also read a lot too. He was kind of like an intellectual hood.
A smart hood guy.
Yeah. But that's something that, but I want to do something that has, a powerful message behind it. I just don't want to just be evil to be evil, but I want to be evil with the intentions on thinking my life through, like this ain't working for me kind of thing, and coming to a impasse in my life where I'm like, okay, either I'm going to die or I'm going to get it together. Something, that has kind of like a moralistic kind of vibe behind it.
Okay.
But the roles I refuse to play, and I've talked to my agent about this, I don't do anything that relates to satanic cults.
Understandable.
We just don't do that. We don't play with that.
Some people get stuck in those mindsets because some people, they actually when they're acting a part, they become that person or that part of whatever it is, and some people, they get stuck in it.
Yeah.
And then they don't know how to get out of it.
It's the spirit. It's the spiritual realm, and I really believe that the spiritual realm uses humans as a portal to come inside, to be used, for us to be used for whatever purpose that spirit is trying to use us for.
Right.
And I really take that seriously, so you're fooling with, cult, the Ouija boards and all that. I think that we open up ourselves as portals for demonic possession. I really believe that.
Okay. Now, with that said, I don't like the demonic stuff.
We don't do that.
I don't even watch those demonic type of movies.
No.
But we are coming to a close. It was a great, great, great show talking to Mr. Kurt Lamar.
Yeah, and you ask really, really deep questions, man.
Well, you got to get down deep into some people to get that real information that you need.
Yeah, but I've seen some interviews where I'm like, really? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, people, that is another episode of Men Do Talk. Again, we was talking to Mr. Kurt Lamar Jones, which is a phenomenal actor, phenomenal voiceover artist. So, again, I am Kayan, your host, and we'll see you soon.
I'm acting brand new. See, was there all the time, I just ain't realize you had to break me down to build me up. Yeah. Turned around 180 degrees, gave me new vision, baby. Now I see. already knew.